What do we do if we are forced to face things we're not ready for? What do we do if we need to face the fact that we've been lied to our entire lives, and all of the information we've learned at school and from our teachers when we were tiny little kids and babies, our parents, our families told us everything that kept us safe might not be true. And maybe there's not anybody to blame for that. Maybe they didn't know themselves. Maybe we've been lied to by bigger organizations, bigger. It's something like a universal, humongous spell or whatever it is that keeps everybody in this fog of not knowing. And yet I believe that we still do choose to believe something unrealistic because we want to keep ourselves safe. We want to keep ourselves in the box, and nobody talks about how scary it is to let go of those beliefs. Because once you have to face the undeniable facts, your old belief system has to crumble, and then not necessarily do you have the existing foundation of a belief which you can cling to. This transition period where you're sort of floating out there trying to figure out or connect the dots and not really sure what you relate to anymore, that's the scariest shit for our brain. Because our brain wants to keep us safe, wants to make the world look, or at least be perceived as something understandable, something figured out for ourselves. And its main job is to keep us safe. And the trigger of unsafetyness is the biggest issue for our survival mechanism, because then how do we survive in the world which we don't really know? How do we survive in the world where there is something so much bigger and more significant than us, than ourselves? And maybe that's not something I'm supposed to say or put into the words, but that's how it feels once we experience the fear of it. And what do we do with this fear? It takes a huge, huge courage to accept what we sometimes are forced to face. And I assume you've seen the movie where people faced something and they had to. And let's assume that it happened. Let's assume that it will happen. There's been a lot of things happening, especially over the last years, the Congress meetings regarding whistleblowers, and hundreds of testimonials. And I'm not even talking about documentaries. I'm talking about the former Pentagon, I don't know, participant, worker, whatever. I don't remember the word now, but I'm gonna put the link to the coolest podcast I've ever heard with him. But that's much more than that. We have New York Times article published in New York Times. I mean, come on. Congress meetings. I mean, come on. And yet we still are not sure. We are not ready to face it. Therefore, we're trying to create these stories to rationalize everything and to bring ourselves back into our safe space. And we don't talk about the way we have to stretch our belief system sort of step by step and gently, with self-love and understanding that floating in the space without any belief system to cling to, or maybe just considering every single one but not necessarily choosing any for some time, unless you actually gravitate toward some which actually gravitates with yourself, is also, or it can also be safe. And I'm gonna offer you a few links. There has also been a person who's channeling some entity for, I believe, like 41 years now. And I'm gonna just insert the link of an interview with this person. His name is Daryl Anka. You might have heard of Bashar. It's a fascinating interview. It's a fascinating person, and what's happening also through that particular state he's kind of coming into, and just considering that, just seeing different perspectives already can destabilize that unstable, that not ready psyche, but maybe not to the point of freaking the fuck out, you know. Maybe we can just look out the window a little bit and then come back to our routines, and then look out the window once again and then come back to our routines for longer, and then in a day or two look out the window once again. I believe that's what this movie does. It presents the idea in a beautiful package of science fiction, which is, as the director said himself, the documentary. And I believe it is inevitable. Over some amount of time, this might happen. In reality, if it hasn't yet, which it has, as I've said, New York Times, all these testimonials, articles, come on. But we're not ready. Some people are not ready, but some are. And so that is beautiful. Then if you don't need to stretch your belief system little by little, if you're literally waiting for this moment, if you are able to connect to the paradigm where this is happening and where this is safe, bravo. There must have been a lot of inner work and courage there, but also my channel is fully based around the idea that we are creating our reality. And in this interview with this person who is Daryl Anka, I believe. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrongly, but again, I'm gonna attach the link down in the description. And this person is channeling being the entity which is called Bashar. If you've ever listened to, you know what frequency is, like what frequency the information he carries or delivers has, and what impact does it have onto us. And so the idea that we create our reality is, well, let's say that in a way it came from him, as he's saying that we're the soul, which kind of just creates this physical illusion experience. And it's not only him who claims that, absolutely not. And then the entire Joe Dispenza's, well, let's take the book Becoming Supernatural. If you've read, you know how there he talks about connecting to different, like putting your brain into a certain brainwave where you are able to access the field of infinite possibilities, which is the same as this person who channels these entities does. He says he's just basically putting his brain into certain brain waves, which also this lady, her name is Esther, and the entity calls themselves Abraham Hicks, if you've heard of that too. You can see the pattern. You can if you are ready for what I'm talking here about, you might also be able to feel the energy. But also there's a scientifically proven fact now that our hearts emanate the magnetic field. And you can ask ChatGPT, whatever, because at this point this is a real scientifically proven fact where there is no doubt. And that can be called as aura. I don't know what else. And then, I don't know, our energy, frequency. Well, basically, it's all of that. We can just go into different science to put it into different boxes to make it understandable for our human brains in order to be able to perceive this as something real and safe. Because if we can't actually understand it, then it's completely unsafe. I totally dig it. But honestly, like, really, bullshit aside, even in this book, in Becoming Supernatural book, Joe Dispenza says that we can, so people in his something Dispenza centers, people are curing cancer and regrowing teeth and changing their bone structure and stuff like that. And yet he also mentions once or twice, I don't know, that some of them do come back to their previous conditions if they don't maintain their focus. And Bashar is saying, he's talking a lot about reality shifting, about how we travel through multitude of realities per second, whether we choose to do this or not. And like, this is one universe, this is one universe, this is one universe. That's what he did. If you saw, you know. I love it. And also he says how to bring yourself into a certain frequency in order to match the certain reality, which is basically the manifestation, stuff like that. However, you do come back if you don't proceed this way. If you lose your frequency, if you don't meditate frequently enough, or if you forgot to, or if you get caught up in previous loops or something, you do come back. And I don't know how about you, but to me personally, it feels like, because I have to, oh my God, because I have to kind of continue with this constant like supporting actions of this state. And if I don't do it 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, a week, which life can happen, and I personally am not that great with the routines to be continuing for my entire life and to be sure that I will, that's it. You fall back, and then the huge frustration comes and kicks in, and you feel like all that you've done for such a long time is for nothing, and that's not a great thing. But there is a way to do it permanently, where you don't need to be constantly kind of feeding yourself with certain actions, and if you sleep, then you lose it completely. And basically, let me explain why we got pulled toward the coming back, or into our trauma manifestations, or into fucking loops which just keep happening over and over again, which we try to break free from, but if we don't meditate, or like health conditions, they somehow manifest into our realities again, and we just don't know why. And that's not because it's truly who we are, it's because we have traumas. And that's something a lot of those teachers, gurus don't actually mention, because the traumas of when we were brought up, it happened at one point. We somehow learned it even in the womb of our mothers sometimes, because we do read their thoughts. And even if you don't believe that, you can look at it from the scientific brain-friendly perspective, which will not make you freak out. And from that perspective, you feel the hormones and the chemicals of your mother's body, who, when she feels something, your tiny little, I don't know, body, which is just being formed in her body, kind of immediately perceives those emotions and kind of perceives them as your own. because you don't really know the difference at that point. Let's take it from that perspective. So anyways, all of that trains our nervous system and our amygdala, which is the panic button in our brain, and it sort of like splits into two. So we have it in both of our brain parts, hemispheres, and it kicks in once we are being triggered by the external situation which we've created, of course, as we're creating our reality, but again, without freaking out. But external situation. And then it says, okay, that's what happened in the past. That's where we freaked out when we were little, and we've created this shadow parts of ourselves, or just like frozen parts of ourselves, or basically a part of us compartmentalized into that trauma which lives within us. And that's something that pulls us back into that past reality or whatever it is, to make it keep manifesting, but at the same time to keep fighting it inside of us. And once we have that nervous system freezing, once we have that amygdala activated, the shadow part or whatever it is, that reaction comes, which doesn't usually come from the awareness part of ourselves. And it doesn't, because that's the wounded part of ourselves that reacts to the external part of the experience which we've created in the first place, because we were so scared of it. And the resistance is something that's creating the experience even more. And so then this part of ourselves wakes up, takes control, starts steering, and we get to scream at our parents, get petrified, run away, or just something the aware part of ourselves might have not really done. And later on we might lie down in bed before going to sleep and thinking, whoa, was it me? Why did I do that? And the most important part here is to just understand that it's okay, because that's just a coping mechanism, and that's something that happened, which we just didn't investigate enough. And we can, of course, go meditate and click the frequency and go into another timeline and experience perfect experience as if we didn't have that trauma in the first place. I've done it twice. I've told in my previous videos my spine bone structure changed, and then it changed back in a few days because I was freaking out, because I wasn't ready for the change, because the trauma inside of me still existed where it was at the first place, where it had been at the first place. And that's why I keep saying, go into those feelings that trigger you. And coming back to the disclosure topic, if this topic freaks you out, and if you want to, or some part of yourself wants to keep yourself in the box of skepticism or just questioning everything, and maybe you're even going into that extreme where you deny it completely, gently questioning your belief systems is alright. I know you can't do it consciously when you're in this state, because your inner frozen compartmentalized shadow part, which is wounded, will kick the shit out of you. It will not let you dissolve this or feel this feeling. Once you put your attention to the feeling, it magically runs away. It's because it sees what you're doing and it doesn't want you to go there, because it feels like if you dissolve it, you dissolve yourself, you kill yourself, and you cease to exist. So I suggest you to start breathing, close your eyes, become present, and from that point only to start asking yourself certain questions. What do I believe about this? What do I believe about that? Feel the feelings that come up and keep breathing. deeply, because that's the biological, natural way of calming ourselves down and our bodies down, and the amygdala and the nervous system and everything that trauma has to do with. And then you feel the feelings, but you're also a little bit bigger than that because you're present at the same time. So there are two parts of you. One, which is the you, which might be watching this video now and be kind of almost like really conscious of what's going on. And another part is the wounded part of yourself, which starts coming up, looks around and feels like maybe it's okay to be here and to actually feel what I feel. And so to share what they feel with this part of you, which is like right now adult, and that part of you is usually a child of whatever age it is. And usually different trauma has different age of a version of a child of yourself. And once you're in a safe space of breathing and just being there, you can feel it, and you can then only question whether, am I sure? Is this 100% the only way for everybody in this universe? Is this the absolute truth of this universe? Am I 100% sure? And you gotta answer from the space of your true consciousness, which is there can't be 100% truth of anything here, because we can look around and we can see. We must have heard of some people that live different lives and that experience completely different experiences, and we believe that it's because they were brought in different circumstances and they completely deserve something else or something else. But we are creating these beliefs and these experiences and everything else because we believe it in the first place. And if we question our belief systems, and if we answer ourselves truly, honestly, that maybe I'm not 100% sure, and maybe, yes, I'm unsure, and I'm fucking petrified to be unsure, but maybe that's okay, because it doesn't mean that I will die because of it. Maybe I'll be fine. And then breathe into it and feel the fear that comes up, and feel and breathe into it even deeper. Let it be felt, let it come out, and then ask yourself if there is a chance to create something else for yourself. And then if you feel resistance, go for it. Ask yourself, all right, what type of resistance it is. So basically, okay, if I dissolve this, what will happen to me? And then once you answer that, you say, okay, I believe that. Am I 100% sure that will happen? Is it, and answer from the consciousness perspective. Because again, as all of these entities, all of these really good spiritual gurus say, we are the consciousness, we are the being of light, or whatever it is that also yogis call the enlightenment, and whatever it is, we can connect to it. And answering from that perspective gives clarity, and you cannot ignore this clarity once you are in the operational system, once you're breathing into that. But to do that in the first place, that's something we usually don't really do, because the scariest shit about, the thing which is even scarier than dissolving our fears, than living in our fears, is dissolving them. Yeah, so basically we're not afraid of living in fear. We're afraid of dissolving the fear, because what's next? And who knows what's next? Who knows what's next? And maybe that's the point. Maybe that's okay. Maybe what's coming is even better. And I believe that if we work on our traumas, if we work on our fears, it becomes so much easier to just accept and to see the truth, because you don't have to run away from it. And once you have to, you can easily stop and work on the reason why you have to run from the truth at the first place. And then the possibilities will open themselves to you, they will present themselves to you, and then the disclosure, the whatever it is, won't sound as petrifying. And as Bashar says, it's not that, like, we cannot perceive anything. We are not having one vibration or like frequency with. So basically, if we hear something but we are on a completely different vibration, we will never perceive that. But once we work on our fears, we basically dissolve the magnet that's been making us gravitate towards pulling us down basically. And then once we dissolve it, we naturally come up, because we don't have that heavy thing that's been pulling ourselves down. So I do recommend to try. I have some videos on how to do it, what to do it, what to do about it. I talk about it a lot, but that's really something that changed my life permanently, and I've stopped being afraid of changing back. And that shift is incredible. So yeah, the disclosure. Does it make you scared or does it make you excited? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for listening to this video till the end if you have. I really appreciate it. And hopefully see you soon.